The air in Muzudafu, usually thick with the ambient hum of a city teeming with quirks, was instead split by the shriek of tearing reality. For Izuku Midoriya, known to a select few as the ninth inheritor of One for All, the sensation was like being dunked in ice water and electrocuted simultaneously. One moment, he was leaping to intercept a C-list villain whose quirk involved creating localized, unstable wormholes. The next, the wormhole wasn't localized at all. It swallowed him whole. The trip was a nauseating kaleidoscope of color and sound, a temporal blender that scrambled his senses. He was spat out onto hard, gray pavement with a sickening lurch. The first thing he noticed was the sky. It was too clean, too blue, crisscrossed by silent, sleek vehicles that looked like they'd flown straight out of a pre-quirk sci-fi movie. The buildings were impossibly tall, gleaming chrome and glass that stabbed at the clouds. The air smelled of ozone and sanitized metal. This was not Muzudafu. Before he could even begin to process the profound wrongness of his surroundings, a guttural shriek echoed down the street. A crowd of people, and what looked like bipedal, blue-furred aliens and a robot walking a dog, scattered in panic. Thundering into the intersection was a grotesque monster, a rhino-like creature with exhaust pipes jutting from its shoulders, bellowing smoke. It was followed by a squad of lurching, robotic foot soldiers with single red eyes, crybots, though Deku didn't know their name. "Stand down, citizen!" A robotic voice boomed from a public address system. "SPD is on the scene!" Deku's head whipped around. He knew that acronym. Space Patrol Delta. It was a footnote in his history textbooks, a pre-quirk international organization that was a precursor to the Global Hero Network. He thought it was defunct, a relic of a bygone era, but here they were. Or more accurately, here he was. The monster, which he'd later learn was an arms dealer named Hydrax, wasn't waiting for SPD. He swiped a massive claw at a hovering streetcar, sending it spiraling toward a group of cowering civilians. There was no time for analysis, no time for panic. There were people in danger. "It's fine now." "Why?" "Because I am here." The words were a ghost on his lips, an automatic mantra. Green lightning, the telltale crackle of One for All, began to sheathe his body. He pushed off. The ground cratered under the force of his jump. To the citizens of New Tech City, it was as if a green blur had simply teleported from one spot to another. He appeared beneath the falling streetcar, muscles screaming as he channeled 5% of One for All, full cowling throughout his entire body. Grah! His arms, braced above his head, met the multi-ton vehicle. The impact sent a shockwave down his spine, but his reinforced bones held. His sneakers ground into the asphalt as he stabilized the massive weight. For a heart-stopping moment, he was All Might at Kamino Ward, a singular pillar against overwhelming disaster. He gently, painstakingly, lowered the streetcar to the ground, its passengers staring at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. He didn't have a moment to breathe. A volley of laser fire stitched the air where he'd been standing. He rolled, coming up into a crouch, his analytical mind finally catching up to his heroic instincts. Okay. Enemies. One large, brute force type. Multiple smaller, range types. The smaller ones are robots. Probably a single command unit. Take them out first to reduce tactical complexity. Their laser fire is consistent, not a tracking type. Predictable firing pattern. Easy to dodge. He was muttering, a torrent of strategic analysis spilling from his lips as he moved. Delaware smash. Air Force. He flicked his fingers, unleashing compressed bullets of air. Each one struck a crybot dead center, sending it flying back in a shower of sparks. In seconds, the entire squad was disabled, twitching on the ground. Hydrax roared in fury, charging him like a freight train. Deku prepared to meet him head-on, green energy flaring brighter. It was then that 5 streaks of color, red, blue, green, yellow, and pink, blasted past him. SPD emergency! 5 figures landed between him and the monster, striking practice poses. They were clad in sleek, armored uniforms, their faces obscured by colored visors. Power Rangers. They were real. Deku's inner fanboy was having a full-blown meltdown, but his outer hero was just confused. "Hey kid, nice moves, but this is official police business," the Red Ranger said, his voice laced with a casual confidence. "Stand back and let the professionals handle it. He's an unregistered genetic," the Blue Ranger stated, his tone rigid and suspicious. His helmet was tilted slightly toward Deku. "Power levels are off the charts. He's a potential threat." "Buttery." A new voice, the Green Rangers chimed in. "His energy signature feels like a really powerful, super caffeinated piece of toast. It's weird. I like it." Deku just stood there, mouth agape, One for All still fizzing around him. Hydrax, impatient, charged again. The Rangers moved with practice, beautiful synchronicity. The Red Ranger, Jack, met the charge with his Delta blasters. The Blue Ranger, Sky, created an energy shield to deflect a swipe. Z, the Yellow Ranger, created clones of herself to distract the beast, while Sid, the Pink Ranger, used her fist-morphing ability to deliver hammering blows. Bridge, the Green Ranger, seemed to be doing a handstand for a reason Deku couldn't immediately comprehend. Deku watched, his analytical brain going into overdrive. Incredible teamwork. They cover each other's weaknesses perfectly. Red is the vanguard, blue is defense and tactics, yellow is diversion, pink is close-quarters support. Green is unorthodox but seems to be scanning for weak points. Their equipment is incredible. Energy-based weaponry, personal force fields. He noticed something the Rangers, in the heat of battle, had missed. Hydrax's charge had cracked a power conduit on a nearby building. It was sparking violently, about to overload and explode, right next to the streetcar full of civilians he had just saved. "The conduit!" Deku yelled, but his voice was lost in the din of battle. He didn't hesitate. He couldn't. Detroit smash! He didn't aim at Hydrax. He aimed at the ground in front of him. Channeling 20% into his fist, he punched the asphalt. The impact was titanic. A huge chunk of pavement erupted upwards, flying through the air and slamming into Hydrax's side. It wasn't enough to defeat him, but it sent the behemoth stumbling sideways, away from the Rangers and, more importantly, away from the conduit. The downside was immediate. A sharp, sickening crack echoed in his arm. Pain, white-hot and absolute, shot up from his wrist to his shoulder. He staggered back, clutching the now useless limb, his vision swimming. The Rangers used the opening. Delta Max Striker, online! The Blue Ranger yelled, deploying a massive cannon. The team took their positions. Fire! A colossal beam of energy engulfed Hydrax. The monster shrieked, glowing brightly before dissolving into shimmering particles, leaving only a containment card fluttering to the ground. The battle was over. The silence that followed was deafening. The 5 Rangers turned as one to look at the green-haired boy cradling a shattered arm, his strange energy field flickering and dying. Okay, Jack, the Red Ranger said, his helmet dematerializing to reveal a handsome, roguish face. I think we need to have a little talk. The interrogation room in the Delta base was cold and sterile. Izuku sat at a metal table, his broken arm now encased in a sophisticated-looking cast that hummed with a low, therapeutic energy. A sleek, blue and white robotic woman named Kat Manx had attended to him with a mixture of medical professionalism and intense scientific curiosity. His bone density is normal, but the cellular regeneration rate after the break, it's like nothing I've ever seen. She murmured mostly to herself. And this energy signature, it's not a standard genetic power. It's something, layered. Coded. Now, he was alone. Or rather, he was alone with a 6-foot-tall, bipedal dogman in the uniform of a commander. Anubis Doggy Kruger stared at him with ancient, weary eyes. His presence filled the room with an authority that dwarfed even that of Police Chief Tsurigami back home. Name. Kruger's voice was a low growl. Midoriya Izuku, sir. Planet of origin, Earth. Kruger's eyebrow twitched. This is Earth, boy. Your specific designation, Japan. Musitifu. Deku stammered. There is no city-state of Musitifu on this planet's registry. Kruger stated flatly. He placed the datapad on the table. It showed a map of the world. Deku's world. But all the names were wrong, the continents subtly different. You claim to be from a place that doesn't exist, you wield a power we cannot quantify, and you interfered in an active SPD operation, endangering civilians and my rangers. I was trying to help. Deku's voice was small, but the fire was there. That conduit was going to explode. I saw it, and they were too busy. I had to do something. He looked down at his cast. Even if it was reckless, Kruger was silent for a long moment, his gaze unwavering. Your file, he began, though Deku had no file, is non-existent. To SPD you are a ghost. A powerful, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous ghost. I'm not dangerous. Deku insisted, looking up, his eyes shining with desperate sincerity. I want to be a hero. I want to save people with a smile. That's all I've ever wanted. The raw, unvarnished earnestness of the statement seemed to give even the stoic commander pause. It was a sentiment he had not heard in a long, long time. It was the creed of a different kind of hero from a different kind of world. Heroism is not a want, boy. It is a duty, Kruger said, his voice softening a fraction. It is discipline. Control. Your actions today showed immense power and a noble heart. They also showed a catastrophic lack of control. You saved that streetcar, only to disable yourself moments later. A hero who cannot continue the fight is a liability. Deku's face fell. He knew Kruger was right. It was the same lecture Aizawa-sensei gave him constantly. The same flaw he was desperately trying to overcome. I'm learning, Deku whispered. I promise, I'm learning to control it. The door slid open, and Kat Manx entered, followed by the 5 B Squad Rangers, now out of uniform. Commander, forgive the interruption, Kat said. But my preliminary analysis of Midoriya's biosignature is complete. And you need to see this. She projected a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed Deku's DNA helix, a vibrant, glowing structure, but intertwined with it, like a second, phantom helix, was a spiraling torrent of pure energy. I've never seen anything like it, Kat explained. His genetic power isn't a single ability. It's more like a vessel, a container for a massive, external energy source that has bonded with him on a cellular level. In fact, there are traces of multiple, distinct energy signatures within the primary one, 8 of them, to be exact. It's as if his power is a legacy, passed down and accumulating over time. Deku stared in awe. She just described one for all more accurately than anyone, even All Might, had ever been able to. Whoa, Bridge said, his eyes wide. So he's not just toast. He's like a whole loaf of multigrain, legacy toast, Sky scoffed. It's unstable. He's a walking bomb. He's a walking hero. Z countered, looking at Deku with a new respect. Did you see that jump? Or how he took out those crybots without even touching them? He did punch the sidewalk so hard he broke his own arm, Sid pointed out, not unkindly. There's a bit of a learning curve there. Jack, who had been leaning against the wall, finally spoke. He saw the exploding conduit before any of us did. While we were focused on the monster, he was focused on the people. That's something. Kruger took it all in. He looked from his rangers, to the incredible data on the screen, and back to the earnest, terrified, and determined boy sitting at the table. He was an anomaly, a loose cannon, a danger, but he was also undeniably heroic. SPD's mandate was to protect the Earth from those who would harm it. But what was their duty to someone who fell from the sky with the heart of a protector, and the power of a supernova? You cannot go back to your world, Midoriya Izuku, Kruger said, the finality in his voice chilling Deku to the bone. At least, not with any technology we currently possess. You are stranded here. Deku's world tilted on its axis again. His mom, All Might, Uraraka, Ida, all his friends at UA. He would never see them again. Tears welled in his eyes. But, Kruger continued, and the word hung in the air, heavy with possibility. We do not discard those with the will to serve. And we do not leave a weapon of your magnitude lying around unsupervised. He stepped forward, his shadow falling over Deku. You want to be a hero? You want to learn control? Then I will teach you. SPD will teach you. You will be stripped of your name. You will be a cadet. You will start from the beginning. You will drill, you will study, and you will train until your body obeys your will, not the other way around. You will earn your place here. Deku looked up, tears streaming down his face, but a new light was dawning in his eyes. A light of hope. He was lost, alone, and impossibly far from home. But he was being given a chance to learn, to grow, and to continue his path. What will my designation be? Deku asked, his voice thick with emotion. Kruger's lips curled into what might have been a grim smile. Your power is green. Unpredictable. Wild. But with the potential for immense growth. Cat, he barked, turning to his chief scientist. Sir, begin work on a new morpher. One that doesn't just call on a power source, but regulates an internal one. It needs to be a conduit, a focus, something that can channel his raw energy into a stable ranger form. He turned back to Deku. You will not be B-Squad. Your role is too unique. When you are ready, you will be our ace in the hole, a new line of defense. He stood at his full, imposing height. Welcome to Space Patrol Delta, Cadet. From this day forward, you are SPD's Deku Ranger.